with a hung parliament such as yours. You were the first speaker elected from a party that is not in government, but you were well prepared for it. From your days, Mr. Speaker, as a minority leader, a majority leader, and a deputy speaker. Your wisdom, patience, and calmness, even under pressure, have been an anchor for this House, especially during turbulent times. Your ability to manage this Parliament with fairness, even in most challenging circumstances, has made you an outstanding statesman. To the members of the NDC Minority Caucus that briefly became the Majority Caucus, I express my profound gratitude for the support and cooperation that I, along with my colleagues in leadership, received from you over the past 2 years. Together, we have achieved numerous milestones, and I'm confident that history will be kind to us for our collective efforts. At the stroke of midnight today, the NDC caucus will re-enter this chamber with a strength of an unprecedented two-thirds majority. Mr. Speaker, this, I believe, serves as a timely reminder to the political class that the people of Ghana reward hard work, dedication, and true love for country. Right Honourable Speaker, this 8th Parliament has indeed been historic in many respects.
For the first time under the Fourth Republic, we witnessed a Parliament that was evenly split, with each of the political parties securing 137 members each. We also saw 40 female members of Parliament equally distributed across the political parties. One independent member of Parliament who serves as the second Deputy Speaker, and a Speaker who hails from the opposition. This, in every sense, Mr. Speaker, gave us the first hung Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Honourable colleagues, let us be proud to be part of this historic Parliament. From the very start, the stage was set for a roller coaster journey, particularly during the election of the Speaker. That fateful night kept the nation on edge, with many fearing for the safety of our democracy. That event that unfolded, climaxed by the regrettable and unwarranted military invasion of this august House, will remain a blot on Ghana's democratic history. Mr. Speaker, we pray that such a moment is never repeated. Yet, Mr. Speaker, from the dark night emerged a bright dawn. A new Parliament under the Speaker, who is not from the ruling party, the first of its kind in Ghana's history. Mr. Speaker, despite facing significant challenges, this House has remained steadfast, navigating many turbulent waters, including certain actions by some members that sought to undermine the independence and authority of Parliament as a co-equal branch of government. Right Honourable Speaker, while many hope that this Parliament would usher in a new era of collaboration for the national good, some fear that it would deepen political divisions. Nonetheless, I can confidently say that the NDC caucus has consistently upheld the supreme national interest in everything we did. At every turn, we had been guided by one principle: to do what is right for the people of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, every policy or action every policy or action of government that we criticized, we complemented with superior, constructive, and alternative proposals. Although, Mr. Speaker, our views were often ignored, times has proven that many of the positions we took on critical national issues were correct. Right Honourable Speaker, one of the most significant and fiercely debate we witnessed in this Parliament was the protracted struggle over the Electronic Transfer Levy Bill, the famous e-levy. The NDC minority stood firm with the people of Ghana against this unpopular tax, while our colleagues on the other side supported it. Right Honourable Speaker, despite the strong resistance from within and outside this chamber, the e-levy was foisted on the people of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, we raised alarms also about multitude of new taxes imposed on the people of Ghana. In fact, over 40 in total that burdened the people of Ghana and stifled business growth. At the same time, we witnessed proposals that was supposed to grant 450 million
US in tax exemptions to crony businesses. In the spirit of patriotism, Mr. Speaker, we demanded justification of this request, especially as Ghanaians continue to suffer from extreme hardship. Right Honourable Speaker, I believe that posterity will surely vindicate our warnings regarding the reckless borrowings and economic mismanagement under the President Akufo-Addo and Alhaji Bawumia's government. Records available to this House shows clearly that, Mr. Speaker, some individuals in government profited to the tune of $159.3 million in transaction advisory fees, whilst the country was saddled with an unsustainable public debt. We also spoke out against the mismanagement of the central bank, which led to the negative equity of $55.1 billion Ghana cedis in 2022, and a cumulative loss of 71.3 billion Ghana cedis between 2022 and 2023. Mr. Speaker, as a result, the Bank of Ghana became policy insolvent by end of year 2023. Mr. Speaker, the illegal printing of money at the Bank of Ghana to finance government expenditure contributed to the inflationary crisis we saw. That resulted in over 850,000 Ghanaians falling into extreme poverty. Mr. Speaker, the management of the central bank also illegally wrote off approximately 48 billion Ghana cedis of government indebtedness without parliamentary approval in a blatant disregard to the Public Financial Management Act, Act 921. Right Honourable Speaker, at the height of this crisis, the management of the central bank supervised the award of questionable contract for the construction of an ultra-modern 250 million head office and another ultra-modern governor's residence at a cost that is unknown to the public. Our concerns, Mr. Speaker, about the mismanagement of the state-owned Ghana Cocoa Board, ECG, GIHOC, STC, PBC, among others, were also ignored. Right Honourable Speaker, for 7 consecutive years, Ghana Cocoa Board recorded losses of approximately 11 billion Ghana cedis. The cocoa production also declined drastically under the current government from approximately 1 million metric tons a year in production to now almost 400,000 metric tons. For the first time in 32 years, international banks rejected Ghana Cocoa Board request for a syndicated loan to finance the purchase of Ghana Cocoa. Right Honourable Speaker, we cannot be silent about our opposition to yet another unpopular government policy, the imposition of a regulation called the Import Restriction Regulation 2023. This detested proposed legislative instrument sought to vest unfettered and unchecked powers in the hands of the minister responsible for trade to determine who qualifies to import into the country of certain goods. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, we also raised red flags over dubious Finance Ministry SML induced $100 million a year contract for so-called revenue assurance. After initial feet-dragging and refusal by the President Akufo-Addo to release the KPMG audit report, it finally emerged that the SML was paid a whopping 1.4 billion Ghana cedis for no work done. Right Honourable Speaker, the Ghana Revenue Authority further failed to withhold taxes worth 13.38 billion million Ghana cedis from these payments. As we speak, unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the entity called SML is still ripping off the taxpayer for no work done. Right Honourable Speaker, we on this side expressed several concerns over the government handling of illegal mining menace that engulfed our nation. We are also on record to have cautioned that its pretentious fight against this existential threat to our collective survival will soon have dire consequences on us. Amid this facade of the fight, Right Honourable Speaker, high-ranking government officials, NPP functionaries, were accused by the then Cabinet Minister, Professor Frimpong Boateng, of promoting and engaging in illegal mining. Mr. Speaker, Galamsey later became a free-for-all enterprise
involving MMDCs and other party functionaries. The records will bear us out that we on this side call for an honest,
responsive approach to this menace, found on strict application to the law. No matter whose ox is God. Right Honorable Speaker, again, our concerns were ignored. The scale of corruption and waste during this period has been staggering, alarming, and heart-wrenching. Mr. Speaker, the more we on this side spoke out, the more corruption and wastage festered. Promoting this as a result prompted the Catholic Bishop Conference to decry and describe the situation as a massive, uncontrolled corruption under this administration. Mr. Speaker, scandals became a daily occurrence as we were treated to blatant abuse of office and plundered the public funds. Right Honorable Speaker, we also saw a misuse of COVID-19 funds. The malfeasance that characterized the 13th African Games, the 500 million Ghana cedis National Service Ghost Names scandal. We saw the brazen attempt to shell out state hotels to a cabinet minister, and free-for-all grabbing of state lands are, Mr. Speaker, but very few that we need to mention. Right Honorable Speaker, we also had to contend with the erosion of the independence of critical state institutions. Many of these institutions were filled with partisan elements who undermined due process to please the regime in power. So, Speaker, journalists who exposed corruptions were subjected to brutal crackdown and dissenting voices and were silenced. Right Honorable Speaker, the silence, the insistence of the Electoral Commission of Ghana to adopt the Ghana card as the sole document of the registration for the registration of voters, even though millions of Ghanaians were yet to be issued their Ghana cards by the National Identification Authority, cannot escape mention. After eventual yielding to the resistance from the gallant NDC Minority Caucus, the Electoral Commission decided to conduct voter registration exercise solely at its district offices instead of the designated polling stations. But for our voices, Mr. Speaker, that were heard loud on these matters, the Electoral Commission would have succeeded in denying millions of Ghanaians their right to register and vote. The Electoral Commission was once again forced to beat a retreat on its popular decision to outlaw the use of indelible ink during the 2024 general elections. In all of these instances, our vigilance, insistence, and accountability saved Ghana's democracy. Right Honorable Speaker, the past 8 years have been tough for all of us, a lesson on how not to govern a country, and in fact, a lesson on how not to run an economy. In the end, the crushing defeat the NPP suffered in the just-ended elections is a clear message from Ghanaians that they will not tolerate any such level of poor governance and mismanagement. Mr. Speaker, it is deeply concerning that those who oversaw such disastrous performance in government would have the audacity to adorn themselves with accolades to the chagrin of the people of Ghana. Right Honorable Speaker, I was surprised to see some of them being awarded with highest state honors. Right Honorable Speaker, at the personal level, I have had to pay a heavy price for my stance against the government mismanagement. Mr. Speaker, my recent prosecution, or call it persecution, by the Attorney General over frivolous and trumped-up charges was calculated to silence, intimidate, and completely extinguish a known dissenting voice. Right Honorable Speaker, my crime, Mr. Speaker, was that I sounded alarm bells on an economy that was being mismanaged and ruined by an act and omissions of a select few in government. The fact that my prosecution began in the wake of the tussle over e-levy should not be lost on anyone, that I became an instant target for the regime. Mr. Speaker, I was charged on the Christmas Eve, a few days after the rejection of the e-levy, and the 2022 budget. Right Honorable Speaker, from that point, the Attorney General and the Minister responsible for Justice, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, in whom the prosecutorial powers of the state is vested, was determined to deploy all crude tactics, including the use of subterfuge, to achieve his ends of malicious prosecution just to satisfy the regime. So, Speaker, the whole world witnessed how a supposed Minister of Justice set out to coach, cajole, and coerce another accused person standing trial together with me to falsify his testimony and skew it in such a manner as to enable him to procure a conviction at all costs against an innocent person. In the process, Mr. Speaker, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, who is the principal legal officer of state, engaged in crimes such as witness tampering, conspiracy against accused person, fabrication of evidence to pervert the course of justice, and professional misconduct, contrary to the ethics of the very legal profession he heads. I believe this has been the story for many Ghanaians during this period. Right Honorable Speaker, never in the history of our nation have we witnessed this level of gross professional misconduct on the part of no less a person than the Attorney General and the Minister responsible for Justice, who is the leader of the bar and bears a high responsibility to adhere to the rules of ethics of the legal profession. Mr. Speaker, I'm not against prosecution of wrongdoing. Whilst our democracy is founded on the rule of law and holding public officers accountable, I pray that never again should any of our citizens become a victim of this level of injustice and abuse of prosecutorial powers that I was subjected to. Right Honorable Speaker, despite the painful experience, I count it as part of the hazards of politics and service to the people of Ghana. So, Speaker, as the clock strikes midnight, a new chapter begins. To those returning to the 9th Parliament, I say congratulations. Colleagues who will not be part of the 9th Parliament, I urge you to walk with your heads high. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to say that